Howdy, y'all. It's Reid Scott here with James Krause. We just got done at the Redbud 400 at Anderson Speedway, where Cole Butcher took home a win, another win on the ASA Stars National Tour season. And the road there was long, 400 laps of action. Started off with a pretty eventful stage one of three. A big incident just after, or just around 100 laps into the race, saw Billy Van Meter and the number five car of Dakota Armstrong and Derek Thorne, but Gavin Bochelle, several others got piled up in the incident, and that kind of set the tone for the night. A lot of attrition, a lot of beating and banging, a lot of close quarters racing, and then ultimately Cole Butcher took home the victory. So James, tell me about some of your takeaways coming to this event for the first time and what you saw out there.
Well, it was weird. It reminded me of the first grassroots event I covered for Frontstretch last season, which was the Slinger National, and sort of the same idea of it's a race of attrition, because when you're on a tight, high banked track like this that's not very long, if you want to beat and bang with someone in traffic, there's a good chance you're going to take a few people with you in sort of the aftermath of it, and that's what we had with that incident. Cole Butcher decided to stay out after the end of the first stage, the first 140 laps, and he basically took that track position and stayed in the front all night.
And you talked about the consequences of rough racing at these quarter mile bull ring tracks, and like a driver was talking with us post race, and they're turning the lights off on us, but we're gonna keep going.
We're
You
good.
know,
We got one.
you'll an incident could start halfway down a straightaway, and it'll carry itself all the way to the other straightaway. You never, I mean, it's kind of hard to tell what's going to happen. It's much like a super speedway in some ways because the wrecks can be kind of unpredictable, and the way it's like a bowl and the car. I don't know what it is about it, but something about these quarter mile little bull ring tracks. It's really unpredictable when guys get crazy, and we saw that tonight with that big wreck, but also some other incidents. And I don't know what was something else that stood out to you. Not just Cole Butcher's victory, not just the battle of attrition. Anything in particular?
Just how a lot of the cars that finished in the top five looked banged up, and the drivers looked banged up.
Oh yeah.
Steve Ullman finished fifth, and that's a big result for him. He got out of the car. He was cramping. A lot of guys talking about helmets going away and things like that. And we talked about a little bit with some of the other drivers, like the heat. You've probably heard, if you've watched any of the coverage for Indianapolis Motor Speedway this week, the heat and the weather have been just a blanket on top of everything. It is, it's 11 o'clock almost out here, and it feels 100 degrees, and it's hot, and it's wet, and it's terrible out here. And that made it really difficult. And I wonder if that sort of led into some of the mistakes and some of the quick to jump on the trigger sort of for some drivers, in terms of, I don't have patience for you beating and banging with me right now, you know, even just halfway through.
Yeah, I mean, talking with Billy Van Meter post race, he had mentioned that Cole Butcher told him that they've got the same similar style of helmet fans, and Butcher's evidently went out with about 100 laps to go, and Van Meter was involved in an incident earlier on in the race, and he said if he would have kept going, he doesn't know if he could have finished because without the cool, I mean, the heat is something different up here. I'm from Alabama, and it was hot for me up here, and I don't know what it is about the corn or the fields, whatever the Midwest has going on up here that makes it so hot. But again, I'm from the deep South, and this was something I wasn't really expecting. Something else I want to touch on just really quickly is the pole sitter for tonight, Derek Krause, set a track record with his qualifying time, and he's coming off of a decent weekend. I believe he had a top 10 finish last night in Madison, Wisconsin, in a late model race. Made the trek over here, and things didn't go his way tonight, but to still have a pretty overall decent weekend and come away with a pole and a track record at that, I think is something worth talking about.
Yeah, I thought Derek Krause, he dominated the first stage. He and Carson Brown basically pulled away from the field. Like I mentioned, Butcher stayed out, and that kind of gave him the track position. Krause got buried in the field, and then I didn't see if it was a technical issue that did him in, but ultimately he did not end up finishing the race. Like most of this field, did not end up finishing this race, including Carson Hosvar, who was a guy that was pretty hyped up for this. I had actually saw him earlier today at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and this was something that sort of came together with Van Meter. He was involved in that early accident, but before then, he went to the back, wasn't able to pick up a ton of positions, and then with the stage, he sort of flipped it and got some track position, and then he had an oil line go down. Frustrating, probably end to what he wanted out of this, but also just I'm curious to know how he feels physically after running, even 200 laps here. Close to it is a challenge, and then turning around tomorrow and trying to drive 400 miles.
Yeah, I mean, having the support from the NASCAR guys here, I thought was really cool. Ross Chastain came; he was the grand marshal of the event, signed autographs during the autograph session, and took pictures with the winner. But also about the heat and the attrition for Carson Hosvar in particular, having to run the Brickyard 400 tomorrow. Well, tomorrow as of the time of us recording this, I'm not sure when this will go out, but it for them to still want to come here and take place in this. I mean, Hosevar's from up this way. He's won this event before. He knows what he's getting into. To come up here and want to run this event and participate with these guys, I think is really cool. The 20 cars may not seem like a whole lot, but the quantity of the driver, or the quality, excuse me if I could talk, the quantity might not have been what folks expected or were looking for, but the quality of the drivers I feel was really, really good. And to sort of segue, so while we're talking about quality drivers, Cole Butcher, he's inevitable. There's death, taxes, and Cole Butcher winning marquee super late model events. I mean, at this point, all he has left to do is win the Snowball Derby and the All American, and that he's closing in on winning most of the things you can win in a super late model. And if you follow along with our ASA Stars coverage, that's been the story of the year. Cole Butcher winning week in, week out. So James, for your first time covering a Stars Tour race, seeing Cole Butcher's dominance in effect, what was that like?
Well, I've seen him a few times at different a few races he's ran in Wisconsin. I saw him dominating a race in Madison before crashing out, and then Ty Majeski took over and dominated that one. But the thing when I talked to him that stood out is the credit he gave to Toyota, and you could see it with Gavin as well, finishing runner-up. Toyota is putting a decent amount of equity into their late model program, and I think that's helping those guys. Obviously, not everyone is going to have, OEM backing like that, and have, he mentioned training that makes these 400 lap races in terrible heat a little easier for him. And he is taking advantage of that. And I think if you see more people getting that from OEMs at the late model level, you're going to see more Cole Butchers, more guys that are just, race every weekend like a professional.
And it's just a matter of time before I think we see Cole Butcher go on to possibly higher things. NASCAR. There's been talks, that we Frontstretch have talked with Cole Butcher after some of these races, and there might be some exploration of a possible part-time Xfinity thing, much like what Bubba Pollard did, last year at Junior Motorsports, and then Sam Hunt,
Butterbean, McQueen.
Butterbean, yeah, the short track guys, I feel like late model stock country takes a lot of that credit for producing some of these NASCAR names, but these super guys, you got to watch out for. I mean, there are some guys in Cup right now. We talked about Carson Hosvar came here tonight. Guys like Chase Elliott, William Byron,
Josh Berry.
Josh Berry has ran supers, but this subset of late model racing, I feel, is still kind of slept on, and so we see these guys, what they have to go through. It's equally as daunting of a task as some of these other disciplines of short track racing, and I think here soon you're going to start to see some more super late model relevance when it comes to NASCAR as opposed to more late model stock side of things. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have too much left to say unless there's anything particular that you've got left.
It didn't rain. I think that was Cole Butcher was
Thankfully.
the big winner, but I think we were all the big winner because somehow it didn't rain. We had a few raindrops with like 15 to go, but I sat in turn 4, and everyone in that in the grandstands there was looking over their shoulder every 20 laps because we had some really terrible looking storm clouds. Never got anything. cross our fingers. Maybe hopefully by the time we get out of here, it still hasn't rained.
Yeah, it did rain earlier in the day during practice, but during the race itself, other than some nasty looking storm clouds over my shoulder here, sort of north of the track, we got really lucky that Mother Nature let us get the full Redbud 400 in. They did have to move the race up, but ultimately it really was a non-factor, and always glad when weather doesn't affect these races in a negative way. So, with that being said, I'm Reid Scott. This is James Krause. You've been watching Frontstretch.com and all of our great ASA Stars coverage. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you somewhere soon.
Jared Haas with Frontstretch.com. Come back more for some great racing video content. And if you like us, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.